Уважаемые коллеги, здравствуйте. Я рад приветствовать вас на втором дне семинара.
Welcome all colleagues. Welcome to our second day of our webinar. Let me remind you about our technical platform capabilities. We're using Zoom, which offers you interpretation service, which is simultaneous. You can use it by selecting preferred language under the globe icon at the bottom of the screen.
For English-speaking audience, hello everyone. I would like to remind you that there is the interpretation function in Zoom. You can choose the globe icon on the panel and choose the English language there to listen all the seminar in English. Thank you. And now I'll switch into Russian. Также есть функция вопросы-ответы, где вы можете...
We also have the Q&A capability, a separate section also available at the bottom of the screen, through which you can address your questions to the speakers. We also have a chat function to give your comments, exchange contents, and also address any organizational issues. We have four main topics today, and we will start with electronic IPO and investment fund administration. For this, we have two speakers. We will then continue into foreign nominee holder accounts. After a coffee break, we will proceed to talk about three-party services. And as a special feature today, we have a session on Sukuk. So let's start. And the first speaker for today is the Korean Central Depository, represented by Mr. James Kim.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Jae-woong Kim, Director of Innovative Corporation Support Department of KESD. Today, I would like to introduce about KESD's Central Repository Services for crowdfunding and startup supporting services. Since we started these services since January of 2016. Okay. Let's look at the overview of security type crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, a compound word of crowd and funding, refers to the practice of raising funds from a large number of people via an internet-based online intermediary by startups with creative ideas or business plans. Okay, there are three distinct types of crowdfunding in the industry, each with a different funding and compensation method. First one is reward and donation type crowdfunding, which is started from 1970s. It is mostly used by social enterprises or cultural projects. Second one is a lending type crowdfunding, started from Kiva, which is the first online lending platform in USA, 2005. This is the most active crowdfunding in the world as well as in Korea. The last one is the security type crowdfunding, which I will speak about today. It is one of the investment products which receives dividends or interest for the compensation from the issuer. It has been widely spread out since 2012, in which JOBS Act of the USA enacted. Korea also benchmarked JOBS Act, but we have different from the one in USA in the point that we have central repository system, which manages the subscription and issuance data centrally. Here, you can see a company's life cycle and the effective investment sources by the timeline. in the preceding and the seeding stage, angel investors, government subsidies, and accelerators have been major investors traditionally. But during this death valley of the early stage, most of the startups failed to get enough investment from outside investors. At this stage, crowdfunding utilizing the individual investors and 3F, which are family, friend, and fan, would be the very effective investment source to the startups. Okay, now you can see how a company can expand its crowd in the securities type crowdfunding. Starting from the reward type crowdfunding, a company needs to get three F's investment, which is followed by its trust capital from the suppliers, its clients, and its supporters. And finally, the power of the connected vital crowd can work effectively. Okay, let's look at the status of crowdfunding in Korea from now on. In order to support the startups and create new jobs for young generation and new investment opportunities, Korean government legislated securities type crowdfunding system in 2015. KESD was appointed as the central repository by the Financial Services Commission in August 2015 and started crowdfunding system in January 25th, 2016. This diagram shows the issuance procedure of the crowdfunding securities. All online intermediaries are linked with the KESD's crowdfunding system and simultaneously transfer the investors' data to KESD. And once every condition are met, KESD issues the crowdfunding securities in electronic form and distribute it through the brokers. For your information, every description from this slide are stipulated in the Capital Market Act of Korea. Central repository manages data and information on crowdfunding issuers and investors and controls the issuance and investment cap. Online intermediaries intermediate the offer and sale of the securities between issuers and investors only via online platform. Besides the central repository, KESD bears the role of the central securities depository as well as the transfer agent. Every issuer shall entrust the shareholders list to KESD according to the Act. And the Act entrusts the safekeeping of the subscription money to the banks and securities finance corporation. Issuer is limited to unlisted small and medium companies with not more than 7 years since its establishment. You can see a few exemptions and non-eligible type of businesses here. In principle, issuing securities through crowdfunding means doing public offering according to the Act. Therefore, the Act stipulates a few special provisions on public offering for securities stock crowdfunding. Unlike IPO and small sum public offering, which needs to submit very complicated registration statement to the FSC, securities type crowdfunding can start the offering by uploading very simplified documents such as the terms and conditions of securities, financial statement, and prospectus to the online platforms. And crowdfunding issuer can issue not more than 3 billion Korean won, which is equivalent to $2.7 million from the end of this month, according to the amendment of the decree. Distinctively, securities type crowdfunding has the goal of accomplishment system in which the whole issue will be canceled if the total subscribed amount is less than 80% of the target amount of the public offering. I can say this reflects the meaning of the crowdfunding, which is wisdom of crowd. The Act places caps on investment per issuer and the annual total investment to prevent substantial losses from excessive investment. investors are categorized into individual investors, investors with qualified income, and professional investors, depending on their expertise and ability to take risk. And different limits are set on the maximum investment per issuer and total investment per year, according to the investor type. Now, let me show you statistics of crowdfunding in Korea. Since January 2016 through May 2021, total 1,407 companies attempted and 877 companies succeeded with 146.9 billion Korean won funded, which is equivalent to 131.5 million US dollars. Cumulative success rate during this period is 62.3%. The crowd is leading the market as shown in the slide. Total number of individual investors are more than 63,000, which is approximately 92% of the total investors during the period. And the individual investors invest more than 60% of the total investment. CrowdNet is the official crowdfunding website in Korea made by KSD. KSD, a key infrastructure of the crowdfunding market, is providing information and statistics to issuers, investors, intermediaries, and supervisory authorities through CrowdNet. Since crowdfunding deals are scattered to 14 different platforms, the CrowdNet shows all of the company information in progress. Therefore, the investors can easily access to all funding deals in Korea through CrowdNet. Finally, I would like to review the benefits of crowdfunding by a central repository. As far as I know, only Korea adopted the central repository services for crowdfunding among all other world in CSDs. For the issuer, crowdfunding helps startups to find new investors, new customers, new media channels, and new market. And crowdfunding can be a new investment opportunities for the investors. And also crowdfunding gives the online platforms new business opportunities and let them avoid overlapping investment by participating in central repository services provided by KSD. CSD also can expand its business horizon to the unlisted startups, which will be a new earning income. Finally, government can execute effective support policy to small and medium companies through central repository. And thus, this will lead to building the basis for robust economic development and ultimately, I believe. And I would like to introduce KSD Startups Supporting Services as the central repository for crowdfunding. KSD, as a pivotal infrastructure in Korean capital market, made a business model to foster and facilitate innovative startups, which the capital market-based innovative startups. With the securities type crowdfunding central repository services, we provide K-Camp accelerating program for the early stage startups to facilitate them to enter into the crowdfunding market. And for the startups who succeeded in the funding, we bridged the venture capital with them via K-Camp IR Consult. KSD supports and facilitates local startups through the K-Camp accelerating program to help them grow as the participants in Korean capital market. Accelerating is to provide early stage startups with the services of training, consulting, networking with investors, reaching the venture capital investment to them. Here is the KSD's partner accelerators, including Spark Labs, one of the famous global accelerators. Okay, we run 4 camps in major region of Korean Peninsula, which is Busan, Daejeon, Daegu, and Gwangju last year. Last year, we achieved 15.1 billion Korean won of follow-up investment attracted for 39 startups, even though they are less than 7 years of history. And this year, March 25th, we held K-Camp final round to compete with each other and to award prizes to K-Camp excellent startups from 4 regions. This year, KSD is planning to expand K-Camp accelerating program to Gangwon province, and also we will launch it in Jeju Island next year. Okay, this is my presentation. If you have any questions about the crowdfunding, you can contact me with phone or email on the slide. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim, for a very meaningful presentation. Currently, there is no question from the audience, but still, if we have any, we will contact you accordingly. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
We continue from here, and the next speaker today will be from the Central Depository of Armenia, Mr. Karen Harutyunyan. Karen, the floor is yours. Hello, colleagues. I'm Karen Harutyunyan. I'm a business administrator of the Depository Services Department of the Armenian Central Depository. And today I would like to talk about administration of investment funds. Central Depository keeps in custody of investment fund assets as per law of the Republic of Armenia, as well as contracts signed between the depository and fund managers. Based on the regulations of this Armenian Central Bank, the Central Depository provides services, in particular maintaining the registry and custody of investment fund assets with or without account operator, depending on that type of funds. The services can be the following: acceptance for custody and servicing assets, keeping account of assets, transaction service, checking for completeness of transactions. We provide custody of depositories and fund assets, as well as cash assets. In particular, we do it as part of depository transactions. We can have cash assets based on current accounts through brokerage services, and we can also provide custody services for foreign exchange funds provided by international brokers. The Central Depository performs the custody services for securities, and in particular on accounts opened in the name of funds, as well as nominee holder, if it's a foreign nominee holder, when international transactions are serviced. There are other functions performed by the Central Depository, in particular keeping account of assets and liabilities of funds, asset control functions, and providing reports to the fund manager. In keeping account, this is services based on instructions provided by fund managers, documents which underlie the transactions, as well as reports on the particular accounts. The central depository on a daily basis keeps accounts of assets and liabilities of funds using specific software, and this is done through the double entry principle, that is entry and confirmation. The central depository also matches the combination and movement of assets. The central depository ensures the transfer of fund assets through issue, buyback of assets under the Armenian law. The central depository provides reports with a specified frequency based on the prescribed timing and scope, and provides those reports either to fund manager or a delegated person that reflects funds movement and balances. Central depository services for transactions and transfers is done exclusively under instructions from fund managers. And these are the types of instructions: a transfer instruction, a final settlement instruction. Number 3 is conversion of cash, cancellation, and amendment instruction. This is a diagram showing how the central depository administers investment fund units when issue and placement takes place, when the active status account, securities account, is opened. The operator of the account sends electronic placement request to the depository. The depository implements a check, checking for the availability of the amount in accordance with the request. If everything is okay, the central depository puts the assets on freeze, and after that, through the local network electronically, the central depository communicates the instruction to the investment fund manager. On the next day, day 2, the investment fund manager and the account operator, using the particular software product, can exercise their transaction according to the DVP principle. After that, the central depository does another check, and if everything is matched, the final settlement is done. Thus, from the moment of registration of final settlement, the transaction is considered final and not cancelable. This is how it is done. That's on my part. Thank you very much. Thanks for attention.
Спасибо, Карен.
Thank you, Karen. As yet, we don't have questions to you. We will communicate any questions if they emerge. Again, colleagues, we have a special section for Q&A, and we have a chat function as well for you to exchange messages, give your feedback and comments. And do not forget that you have a simultaneous interpretation function, and you can select the preferred language to listen in. And now the next point in our agenda is foreign nominee holder accounts, what the structure is, which are mechanisms used in serving foreign clients. Here we will listen from South Korea and Turkey. First, from the Korean Central Depository, Mr. Rowe.
Helen. Hello, Helen. Hi. Introduce Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Arman. Hello,
Take your
everyone.
time.
My name is Helen Che, and I am the head of Global Cooperation Team of the Korea Securities Depository. Today, I decided to introduce Mr. Ki-Hoon Ro because he used to be my director when I worked at the Global Securities Services Department. He was a wonderful director, and actually, he's a kind of the witness of the history of KSD. He joined KSD in 1987, and since then, he has been acting as the key player of the Korean settlement and fund industry development. And then currently, today, he will share his experience as the advisor, consulting advisor of the Mongolian CSD. And currently, he's working as the consultant of the Asia Development Bank. So I hope that his presentation today will be of great reference and help to all the AECSD members. Let me introduce Mr. Ro.
Welcome, Mr. Rowe. What a great introduction you have.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Thank you, Helen. Hi, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm Ki-Hoon Ro from the Global Business Department at KSD. As you may know, KSD carry out consulting services for emerging CSDs with regard to shared growth. In that sense, I would like to explain the Senior Advisor Program of KSD. The greatest benefit of this program is efficiency. During the program, a KSD specialist stays in your country while offering consulting services. So you can enjoy a very interactive and customized consulting experience that you cannot expect from offshore consultants talking with you over the phone or email. Another benefit is that there is no consulting fee. The beneficiary of this program has no cost to burden since KSD covers all of the expenses for its dispatched employee during the entire program. What you need to do is simply to offer a feasible workspace for the consultant. Well, I believe that this must be a pretty good summary of this program, and let's get started with some more details. This is the table of contents. First, I would like to brief you on KSD. To overcome the paper crisis in the US capital market, the world's first CSD, DTC, was established in 1972, and KSD was established 2 years later. Since then, KSD has grown by adopting global standards to enhance the safety and efficiency of Korea capital markets. This graph shows the ratio of each nation's market capitalization divided by GDP. Can you see where Korea is? It's right next to the US. As you can see, the market size is small, but it shows a very well-balanced stock market. Plus, you can see another implication from this graph. You can feel that there should be some rich countries that help the gap between the developed and developing CSDs. I think KSD is doing a great job in this sense. This slide shows the security service ecosystem in the post-trade space. Liquidity and middle office reporting marked as adjacent service at the top. seem a bit unfamiliar to CSD, right? Even it is classified as a function provided by CSP and technology provider, KSD provides these tasks as a CSD. Given the scope of services, I can tell you with confidence that KSD can provide various and in-depth consulting services for you as a trusted partner. Now, let's talk about the Senior Advisor Program in detail. This program started in 2018 amid the strong interest among emerging countries. In particular, in the case of Mongolia, the Ministry of Finance of Mongolia was so satisfied with this program that they asked KSD to extend the program from the original 1 year to 2.5 years. Once this global pandemic is over, KSD will utilize this program more actively for the sake of shared growth for emerging CSDs. Moving on, I would like to talk about what I did in Mongolia. The key task was to reform the post-trade side of Mongolian capital market. To satisfy the PFMI requirement, I did consulting for 2 years for introduction of T+2 settlement cycle, CSP, and DVP system, and even help them developing the clearing and settlement IT system. I hosted 2 international seminars and conducted research to reduce trading cost in Mongolia capital market. My colleagues in Mongolia, especially at the Ministry of Finance, were very kind and willing to reform their stock market from the post-trade perspective. However, the little catch was a language problem, since there were very few people who could speak English, and other difficulties, including local standards, which often mismatch global standards, and some conflict of interest related to work. If you are interested in this advisor program, I will show you how you can make the most of it. First of all, you need to be very clear about what you want and how much support you need. Once your specific needs are known through the consultation, KSD will ensure that a suitable person is dispatched to your side. Secondly, you need to set up the right work environment. For example, if you wish to introduce a PFMI-based DVP system, legislative work is required for this, and it must also be linked with the central bank's payment system. Of course, a high level of understanding and cooperation is required from market participants. Therefore, you should form a task force comprised of relevant stakeholders. Thirdly, KSD's advisor can share experience and knowledge and make recommendation for you. But in the end, it's you who must make the decision and develop the system. Therefore, the roles and responsibilities between the advisor and you should be much clarified in advance. Other considerations may include that you need to be patient and allow the advisor enough time so that he can deliver successful result. And there must be talents who is fluent in English and knowledgeable enough communication key issues in post-trade services. Well, this is a certificate of contribution and a medal I received from the Ministry of Finance of Mongolia. And I think it's pretty cool, and I'm very grateful for Mongolia. In the past, what CSDs did was often ridiculed as back office work. But now, the capital market cannot function properly without CSDs. It has become a key function of the capital market. I hope that KSD's Senior Advisor Program can be used efficiently for your organization. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kim, for the interesting presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Ru, sorry.
Yeah, please call me Mr. Ru.
Mr. Ru, yes, sorry, because there is the name of Mr. Kim there, so I just mixed the things, mixed up the things. So yes, thank you. There was a question, but no, this is just the thank you from Mongolian representative, which joined the seminar. So thank you very much for the interesting presentation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Переходим к следующему спикеру.
Now to the next presentation. So we have the representative of the central depository and the client services. I'm Nikita Zverev, and I work on the client service side at NSD. I've been working there for more than 10 years. The first nominee account was opened in 2013, and I was involved in the account opening process. I still continue to support the account and generally the foreign nominees accounts. I will tell you briefly about how we work with the foreign nominee holder accounts. And sometimes I will be using the FNH acronym. This stands for foreign nominee holder. First, how it started and what NSD needed to do in order to work with foreign nominees. In order to have foreign nominee accounts opened with our company, we had to create a powerful and reliable platform for seamless post-trading and service support, trading support on the Moscow exchange as Russia's major platform. Until 2010, Russia had two major officially established securities trading platforms, the MySex and RTS. But in 2010, the decision was made in Moscow to set up a single exchange and single depository serving it, which became the NSD. Later on, in 2012, NSD was given the status of Russia's central depository. And after the RTS was merged with the Moscow Exchange Group, RTS was licensed to also to conduct over-the-counter trade. There were also amendments to the tax legislation, which allowed Russian depositories to be tax agents for foreign nominees. As a consequence, in 2013, NSD opened its first foreign nominee account for Euroclear and the Clearstream, and that was followed by a series of account openings by European depositories and the depositories of CIS countries. As of today, we serve 14 foreign nominee holders from different countries. Mostly these are central depositories. In 2013, the Russian law allowed foreign nominees to hold only federal bonds From 2014, this limitation was removed, and as of today, foreign nominees can have almost any type of securities in their accounts. As is seen from this slide, the demand for Russian bonds on the part of foreign investors started in 2013 and accounted for 22% of all securities issuers. That changed from year to year, but always maintains between 20 and 30% of total issue, which we believe quite a high figure. Also from 2016, we observe increasing interest to corporate bonds, shares, and unit fund shares held by foreign nominees in our accounts. And this is also seen on this diagram. Next, I would like to tell you about some practical details on the one hand, but on the other hand, I don't like to overload you with details, so I will cover them just briefly. This is how account is opened with NSD. It's quite simple. The potential foreign nominee needs to go into a number of contracts with NSD and provide a package of incorporation documents and questionnaires, such as account contract and if you want to also to conduct DVP transactions, you also need to have a clearing service contract. The client also may choose to use bank accounts opened with NSD. In this case, you will additionally go into banking services agreement. Also, NSD provides a big spectrum of services to market participants. In particular, it's interested to receive information on securities so that we could describe those securities in our systems and also have access to corporate action information. Every client can also request testing with respect to both depository and banking services. Also, using any channels of electronic document services. After you entered into the contracts, you can immediately have access to all the services that the NSD can offer. And now a couple of words about channels that the client can use to communicate instruction or receive reports from us. The NSD can interact with its clients through different channels, as can be seen on this diagram. They're generally classified between the electronic document flow supported by NSD as such and the SWIFT-based channel. In the former case, the NSD file gate, this includes a number of solutions. So, for example, the interface-based service, a web page, or internet banking service, also STP messages, which will use our file gate. In this case, the participant must receive electronic signature keys from the Moscow exchange. And for non-residents, such as foreign nominees, keys will be based on Microsoft RSA standard. Another channel is SWIFT. Sometimes it works under 15 or 22 format. And many foreign nominees automate their systems to operate through this standard. Also, given that foreign nominee holders operate in different international markets, working in multiple formats may be suboptimal in terms of business practices and resource allocation. And in many cases, foreign nominee holders work through Russian custodies who know how to work with the depository. So such a custody will be appointed as account operator. It is the case of Euroclear and Clearstream process. This is how it is done because you work under power of attorney through the account operator. In this case, the foreign nominee holder maintains control over its transactions, and when needed, reports and the instruction statuses may be received either through account operator or directly by FNH. The channels which are used to deliver messages may be different. For example, the operator may use the digital gate. At the same time, the FNH will receive its reports through SWIFT channels or vice versa. This can be customized as according to your preferences. Now to the types of settlements with foreign nominee holders. FNH will have access to both free deliveries and DVP deliveries, DVP settlements. FNH can use settlements within NSD as well as throughout the spectrum of foreign securities. That includes external settlements through Euroclear and Clearstream, settlements in CIS countries through respective central depositories. For example, as shown here, Kazakhstan, Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, Belarus, etc. And also NSD clients use access to US markets through AECSDs and Euroclear. Also, they can have access to any other market with which AECSD has bilateral relations. For example, clients can have access to markets of UK, Switzerland, Hong Kong, etc. The variety here is great, and in this case, NSD can serve as a bridge between two foreign nominees. Talking about services inside NSD, we can offer such services as pre-matching of instructions, pooling of instructions, matching by reference. As part of instructions, there are detailed statuses which are given. For example, a client can choose to receive a report on one potential counter instruction or select a group of relevant counter instructions. And so this service is customized for each client. The timing of services is customized to the specific requirements of the depositors. Sometimes clients can use bank accounts not only opened with NSD or the Central Bank of Russia, but also accounts with other banks such as JP Morgan Chase New York and Citibank New York. Also for DVP settlements, the client can select the type of clearing. Transactions can be settled with or without netting. That will affect the tariff, so the client can have a choice. In case of DVP settlements with netting, DVP implemented the possibility to exercise repo transactions that can be done through Bloomberg terminal or the Moscow Exchange terminal. And corporate actions are relevant settlements. So NSD does the exercise of rights associated with securities. The NSD has underwent a serious reform of corporate action, which implies the switch to an advanced format under the ISO 20022. NSD is one of the first central depositories to implement this advice and arrangement into its software. It also ensured that professional securities market players, depositories, registrars, and issuers are properly prepared for that. And it also facilitated the implementation of new laws to match new approaches. Working under the new format ISO 20022 standard, we make sure that clients can receive electronic instructions with more accessible format, that is 15022. Currently, we accept instructions on all corporate actions on the market, such as shareholders meeting, securities buyback, tender offers, and the like. And NSD also operates as the Center for Corporate Information on Securities. This status is given to us by law. This was an important change in the operation of our depository. It means that every Russian issuer must provide all relevant corporate information on its company, which ensures reliability and accessibility of all data. Also, by providing the nominee holders to foreign markets, we support all corporate actions exercised by higher depositories. Here we ensure completeness of information as the upper depository delivers information to its clients. Also, we inform the nominees holders on possible participation in corporate action. Finally, we will talk about taxation implications for foreign nominee holders. This is somewhat different from Russian participants. Under the Russian law, our depository plays the role of tax agent for non-tax residents. It means that if the security is taxable under the Russian law, the NSD will request an aggregate tax disclosure in which the foreign nominee must just disclose the ultimate beneficiary jurisdiction and the tax rate. No detailed disclosure for every beneficiary is required. As in the case with settlements, a foreign nominee holder can appoint its operator from among Russian companies, which will operate under power of attorney and do the disclosure. According to best practices, NSD allows for tax refund after the payment of tax within the period of 25 days. That was a very high level discussion, and I could only touch upon the most important points, and let me just finish at that. If you have any questions, I will be just happy to answer them.
Да, очень содержательную презентацию. Ты упомянул в презентации, что есть возможность для НД назначить.
You mentioned in the presentation that the IFH can appoint an account operator, but the account will be opened with the central depository, right? Yes, the foreign nominee holder must enter into a contract with the national securities settlement depositor. Working through the operator is just an option. If this is the preferred option, then the only document that they need to issue is the power of attorney. All the rest is the relationship between the nominee holder and the central depository. We have a question from the Tajikistan depository. If they open the account with the depository, what is the next step? Probably the best thing you can do is to address your personal manager, or you can also contact me. I will leave you my contact details. If you have your individual depository account, we recommend that you do the testing. We will ask the foreign nominee holder about the services they want from us, so that we can look into the issue in completeness. For example, you may want to do, as I described in my presentation, you want to use NSD accounts to service your DVP transactions. In this case, you will enter into a clearing contract and banking contract. Otherwise, if you don't need that, if you only want to have your settlements done under free of payment principle, then the contracts that you mentioned will be sufficient. So again, it depends on the mix of services that the FNH will need, and that will define the scope of contracts. Yes, maybe you will also be interested in the services that we offer in terms of description of security. Sometimes we are asked to provide a database of securities so that they can download information into their own systems. Thank you, Nikita. And now the next speaker today is representative of the National Depository of Turkey, Gökçe İleriz. Hello.
Hi, Arman. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you for handling the time that I needed. Thank you for that. Actually, I was in another meeting, so I had to rush back. So as far as I could listen to my much respected colleagues' speeches on the nominee holders and the cooperation and collaboration structures that they establish, they're all more than successful. And just like yesterday, I'm the one who is sitting between the coffee break again. So I will use that time very economically. So if you may, I want to start again with the general information on the Turkey capital markets. Now, as I touched upon yesterday, Turkish capital markets is fully dematerialized, and we are operating a beneficial owner-based system. We have the intermediary institutions as our direct members, and underneath these members, there are the investor accounts. But with the changes in the capital markets law and the relevant legislation, we now have the opportunity to open omnibus accounts for our members, and of course, at the end of the day, for their clients. As you know, in the EU area, the CSDR requires that the CSDs should be providing the opportunity to open both the investor-based and omnibus-based accounts. So in our case, this is what we try to do. This is the summary of what I have just explained. So as MKK at the top, underneath you may see the intermediary institutions, the local custodians or the other brokerage houses. And when we onboard a foreign CSD, it should be on the same line with the intermediary institutions as our direct member. So underneath the intermediary institutions, you can see that the investors' accounts and the portfolio accounts of the intermediaries are fully segregated. But unlike to that, it's not possible for foreign CSDs to open investor accounts or beneficial-based accounts. The only permission is provided to them for opening omnibus accounts. And in Turkey, you have to assign an account operator for the execution of operational and reporting requirements. And I will give further details on my next slides on that. And by the way, the sub accounts that you see under the investor accounts are all for operational purposes, and normally our investors don't see these operational sub accounts when they check their account holdings or balances. So in Turkey, as I said, it is now possible for the foreign CSDs, the FCSDs, to become a member of MKK and open up omnibus accounts. And these are the items that made the legal infrastructure complete. The capital markets law, the communique on the dematerialized capital market instruments, especially the article number 12/A is prepared for omnibus accounts. Our business and IT rules, CDS rules, membership directive, and of course the text side of the issue. Now, for foreign CSDs, as I said, it's an obligation to assign an account operator, which is one of the banks that hold general custody license, and these licenses are provided by the Capital Markets Board Authority, Capital Markets Board of Turkey. And for the time being, the omnibus accounts are limited in a sense that you can only hold government debt securities that are issued in Turkey in these accounts. And the owners of the securities that will be kept in the omnibus accounts can only be foreign institutional investors or foreign funds as investors. At the moment, it's not allowed to have local or foreign individual investors or local institutional investors. It is also possible for the local sub-custodians, which are also our direct members, to open omnibus accounts for their clients as well. But and the same rules also apply to them. The only difference is as a you may call it bureaucracy, or you may call it as a policy. For any new foreign CSDs that we would like to onboard, we have to present it to the Capital Markets Board Authority with a official letter, and with that letter, the Capital Markets Board review the applicant's foreign CSD and the business model that they want to employ. And after their review, they are either confirm it or reject it. But most of the time, they confirm it, they approve it. But in local sub-custodians case, it is not like that. Local sub-custodians can open the omnibus accounts directly without asking for any approvals or permission. But again, if there is a foreign CSD which would like to open the Omnus account, then they have to become a member of MKK. So they cannot be a client of local sub-custodians in Turkey. For our plans, especially for the Omnus accounts, we would like to add new security types in the Omnus accounts. You can see the government debts as a starting point. And in our agendas, we would like to add corporate bonds and then mutual funds and move on to the equities. And our plan is to employ at least one or two foreign CSDs become a member of MKK this year, and we have some ongoing discussions. We hopefully successfully close those deals as well. And although it's not a part of this presentation, I would like to mention that you don't have to be a member of MKK to reach to Turkey market or work in collaboration with MKK, because as our colleagues from KSD mentioned in their speech, we also provide advisory or knowledge and experience share based cooperation models to our to the CSDs that we are in close contact. For instance, we worked with a couple of African-based CSDs in the past, and with the agreement that we have in place with the Indonesian CSD for the implementation of the e-voting system, we are also working with them in other several areas too. So not limited with opening a foreign nominee or Omnus accounts directly or indirectly at the MKK level. We can always work together and increase the potential areas of collaboration with any part of the world. So actually, this is my part for today. If you have any questions or need any assistance, please don't hesitate to ask me right now.
Gotcha. And probably I missed something, but could you please clarify what kind of channels you use to communicate with foreign nominees? I mean, electronic channels.
Normally, we use Swift. We support both Swift formatted messages, 150 and 200. But the thing is that since the foreign CSDs assign an account operator in the market, normally the direct communication takes place between the foreign CSD and the account operator. So the foreign CSD sends their instructions to the account operator, and we expect the account operator to feed our system.
But the account still opened directly with MKK, right?
Exactly.
And so, to open this account, does the foreign nominee holder need to apply to regulator, or is it just the agreement between? I mean, is there needs for the regulatory approval?
No, actually, what the foreign CSD has to do is they need to sign a membership agreement with MKK and send an official letter saying that we want to become a member of MKK and open up an Omnus account, and we assign XXX Bank as our account operator. So we approach to the Capital Markets Board Authority saying that this foreign CSD has an application, and here's their official letter with the
MKK,
information on the account operator.
MKK so communicates with authorities. Okay.
And apart from the membership documentation, there's no other need for the foreign CSDs to deal with.
That's great. Great to hear that. So no questions from the audience, so thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
See you around.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Уважаемые участники семинара,
now, dear colleagues, that was the end of our session 2, and We will now take a coffee break. We will meet again at 11:25. That is in just 10 or 12 minutes Moscow time. After that, we will cover three-party services and collateral management. And we will also further talk about security, special case of security servicing, such as Sukuk. See you later at 11:25 Moscow time. Thank you. It's time to continue. Once again, your questions can be addressed to speakers through the Q&A function. We also have the chat section for your feedback and the clarification questions. And simultaneous interpretation is always available so that you can listen to the speakers in your preferred language. Now we'll continue with some topic which is quite complicated, but is important for central depositories in particular, because many central depositories actually are involved in this business. That is three-party services and the collateral management systems. In this session, we have two presentations, one from China and the other from Russia. And the first speaker for this session is our guest from Chinese Central Depository, Mr. Bai.
Thanks, Armin. Bye.
You can share your screen and just say a couple of words about yourself and then go ahead with the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Armin, and dear guest. I'm Bai Yang from the China Central Depository Company. So it's our first time to join the AECSD meeting. Thanks again for the Armin and the SD team to inviting us to join this seminar. So today I'm gonna share with you about our collateral management service and some development and innovation about our service. Okay, so to give a clear picture of our collateral management service, I will be sharing three parts. So first, I would like to give you a brief introduction about the China interbank bond market. According to the BIS, China bond market ranking at 25th in the world in 1997. But after 15 years development, the China bond market has jumped to the second place, only followed by the US market. And the Chinese market is still expecting the great potential of the further development. Actually, we in recent year, we are also made many efforts to enhance the opening up of the Chinese bond market and promote the rapid development of the market. For the foreign investors, few people would imagine how big and how popular this market can be. From the 2010 to the 2016, only few foreign investors were approved by the regulator on the case-by-case basis to enter the China bond market. But with the launch of a series of liberalization policy, especially in the 2016, the institutional foreign investor and the funds were allowed to invest in the CMBM without an administration approval and quota. Since then, the regulatory environment has become more and more friendly to the foreign investors. In the 2017, the Hong Kong Bond Connect has been launched. In 2018, the Chinese Taxation Bureau exempted the foreign investor from value-added tax on bond bond transaction and the interest income. From 2019 to 2020, the China government bond was respectively included in the Bloomberg and the JP Morgan's index. In March of this year, the FIS Russell released its final assessment result and officially announced including China government bond in its World Government Bond Index. The inclusion of the RMB bond giving China bond market a big chance to take a growing proportion in global investors' portfolio. We are expecting that a large number of index tracking funds will hold more RMB bond in the near future. As a back office of the China bond market, our company functions as a CSD and the operator of the security settlement system in China bond market. CCDC serves as a hub of the safe and smooth operation of the China bond market by providing comprehensive service over the life cycle of the bonds, including issuance, registration, depository, transaction settlement, interest payment, principal redemption, valuation, collateral management, and the information disclosure. As a major service provider, CCDC registered over 77 trillion RMB bond at the end of 2020, accounting for the 74% of the entire market. We all know the bond is perfectly suitable to be used as collateral, since it's a stable value, high liquidity, and a lower cost. The fact that CCDC as a core FMI in China bond market hold 100% China government bond and other high quality liquidity asset under custody, which gave us the advantage to facilitate the market participant to use bond as a collateral. So in 1994, the China began to use bond as collateral in its repo market. And since then, the bond has been used as collateral as part of macro level policy implementation. And in financial transactions, the CCDC began offering collateral management service since 2011. And you can see in this chart showing that the amount of collateral management has grown at an enormous rate from 3 trillion RMB in 2013 to nearly 16 trillion RMB to the 2020. And the CCDC currently provides professional collateral management service for more than 9,000 market participants and becoming the largest bond collateral management institution across the globe. CCDC actively promotes third-party collateral management service and provide border space for cross-border use of the RMB bond through a professional, intelligent, and standardized collateral management model. CCDC performed the duty of the collateral manager, perform monitoring work such as valuation, mark-to-market, and collateral evaluation on the secure asset pool, as well as the enforcement rules, and provide the participating party with a comprehensive and detailed data information on their collateral. CCDC's collateral management service also covers various fields across China's financial market, including the monetary policy of the central bank, fiscal policy of the Ministry of Finance, and the foreign exchange management policy, social security system, derivatives market, and cross-border collateral business, tightly holding its mission as the whole FMI of the China bond market. Well, CCDC collateral management service continue to develop. We have also noticed that driven by the fundamental of the Chinese economic and the opening up of the bond market, the number of foreign investors entering China bond market is increasing sharply. So how to help domestic and the foreign investor to use RMB bond as collateral and improve the efficiency of cross-border business has gradually come to our great concern. In response to the national strategy of the financial opening up, CCTC have invest great effort in exploring cross-border issuance, cross-border financing, currency swap, foreign currency interbank lending, so as to widen and deepen in the use of RMB bond as collateral. Successful attempts so far, including serving currency swap pledge, supporting overseas issuance of green cover bond by a Chinese bank, and helping domestic and overseas commercial bank with cross-border financing. Here is one example. In April last year, we cooperated with a commercial bank and a financial leasing company to launch the first foreign currency financing collateral management business in the Shanghai Free Trade Zone. In addition to supporting the financing business, the bond collateral can also be used at the margin in the derivatives market. In the 2015, following approval by the China Securities Regulatory Commission, the Ministry of the Finance, and the Central Bank, the CCTC and the China Financial Future Exchange published a rule allow bonds to be used as margin for financial derivatives. In November 2019, the MOU was signed by the CCTC, China Financial Future Exchange, and the Shanghai Dalian Zhengzhou Commodity Exchange to allow the use of a bond as margin in the entire future market. Since 2019, over 14 billion RMB bond has been paused as margin for future contracts, representing a year-on-year increase to over 50 times. Bonds are currently accepted by the margin for all types of financial future contracts, and the scope of investor has also been expanded to include qualified foreign institutional investor. As the bond and future market continue to open up, the use of the China government bond as margin in derivatives contract globally will likely continue growth. In order to further promote RMB bond as qualified collateral in the global market, in 2019, CCTC and the London Clearing House worked together to include RMB bond as a qualified collateral in UK market into the result of the China-UK financial dialogue. On 15 September of 2020, the joint white paper named as the use of RMB denominated Chinese government bond as margin for derivatives transaction by CCTC and ISTA was released. As the first collaboration of its kind between a Chinese FMI and an international industrial association, the white paper hoped to offer a comprehensive overview of the opportunities and challenges arising from the use of RMB bond as initial margin in the OTC derivatives market, and shed a new light on the cross-border use of RMB bonds. Meanwhile, to meet the actual needs of the market participants, we have also launched the default disposal service. In June 2019, the PBOC issued a notice regulation between the bond default disposal in repos. The CCTC have since issued implementing rules and guidelines to support an efficient collateral enforcement regimen. CCTC has further extended the scope of the default disposal mechanism to cover the default bond in repo, third party, and the bilateral collateral, and the cross-border collateral arrangements through a pre-authorization granted in favor of the CCTC. This has brought China's collateral enforcement rule closer to the self-help remedy, which is more in line with the international practice. According to the guideline on the disposal of the collateral upon default released by the CCTC, disposal of the collateral could be conducted via auction, private sale, and conversion into value, depending on the investor's need. All these developments are intended to strengthen the foundation of the China government bond to be used as an eligible collateral. Also, in terms of the international cooperation, CCDC have signed the MOU with a lot of ISD and the CSD, like the Euroclear, Clearstream, and ASD, and continue to strengthen the cross-border collaboration with custodian bank, with the will of creating a pathway for the mutual recognition of the collateral, and to connect China with the international market, enhance connectivity between the FMI, would help to reduce potential barriers to cross-border transactions, thereby facilitating a higher degree of the market integration. Thanks, that's all my presentation today. Here's my email. If you have any questions, would like to let me know. So thanks again for Armin and the NSD to inviting us to join this seminar.
Thank you, Mr. Bai, for a very interesting presentation. It was our pleasure to hear the CDC experience, and you have a huge collateral management service business. So it's a lot to learn, I'm sure, from your experience. Thank you very much. We will be glad for your participation in the rest of the seminar and other events of AECSD as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Armin.
Уважаемые участники, мы переходим к
Now, dear colleagues, we now move to the next presentation in this session. The next speaker represents NSD. Sergey Kuzmin has been doing collateral management service with NSD for quite a long time, and I'm sure he has a lot to share. Hello, colleagues, and I will now share my presentation. I hope you can hear me well. It will be great if you can make it full screen. It's a pleasure to welcome you, colleagues. Today I work from home. Well, this is the situation of today, and I will try to be as open with you as possible. And I will tell you about the collateral management and clearing services that NSD provides to its clients. And after that, if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them, whatever they are. Now, one point to note, I will be showing an English presentation, but I will speak Russian. The national platform for liquidity management for public lenders was set up as a strategic idea on the NSD part. We have been implementing it from 2013. The key players and participants of the platform are government creditors, and the idea is to provide liquidity to commercial banks by entering into repo transactions with three-party services of NSD that do collateral management. As you can see, the major players who have their funds placed in our platform include the central bank, the Federal Treasury, and let me note here that the Federal Treasury places here both federal and regional budget funds. In Russia, regions are of two types. Some regions are authorized to place their funds in repo transactions, and those who cannot do that independently, and those access the platform through the Treasury account. The United Treasury account is operated by the Federal Treasury. So this connects us to the regions and the regional financial authorities that can have free funds that can place them on our platform. Currently, those are St. Petersburg City and the Leningrad region. we are working to expand the geography of our platform. The other counterparty of our creditors are borrower banks. Now we have more than 150 participants connected to tri-party services. And generally, we provide services to more than 300 participants of clearing transactions. So I will tell you later, towards the end of the presentation, about clearing services and others. NSD and the Moscow Exchange Group, as such, perform certain functions which are important for the markets as socially important institutions. So they can provide collateral management services to government creditors. The Moscow Exchange is Russia's largest exchange to service transactions. NSD, in turn, is a socially important central depository, which empowers us not only to keep in custody the securities, but also to keep them in account under repo transactions. We also are a socially important settlement system. As Mr. Rowe mentioned, integration with the payment system and the central bank system constitutes an important condition for effective settlement and for securities. We have an accredited valuation center or pricing center, as we call it, to use fair market value for collateral management purposes. NSD is also an important trade repository. We are not the central repository for a crowdfunding platform, as Mr. Kim described. Nevertheless, over-the-counter transactions must be reported to the repository, and this function is concentrated with us. We are a clearing institution as well. All this allows our respected members, such as the central bank, to place about 120 trillion rubles. That is as much as was placed since 2013. The Federal Treasury has placed even more, 146 trillion rubles since 2015. And the regional members, they started only recently, since 2019. Their placements are counted in billions of rubles. But government creditors transactions are not the only ones we work with. We also provide collateral management systems for our banks and brokers as members. And also, as we said before, we do DVP settlements for securities transactions. So these are the key functions of the platform. Our key feature is the ability to service repo with basket of securities. This is an important advantage for customers because they can use collateral substitution. At any moment, you can remove the security from the repo transaction and replace it with any other equivalent security. Our government creditors have big baskets, and several different securities can be used as securities. Also, we have the feature of automatic allocation of securities. We implement daily mark-to-market valuation based on exchange prices or fair market valuation received from the pricing center. And based on this daily valuation, we allow customers to automatically exercise their liabilities, but in cash or in securities. Automatically, reports are generated to the repository on all OTC trades and any movement of funds related to that. For first and second parts of repo, we provide settlements in rubles or other currencies based on DP +1 or DP3 with netting. In repo transactions, the key feature is processing of corporate actions. And these have two options. Either securities are excluded from the transaction or the revenue is transferred from the creditor to the borrower. This is an interesting feature because collateral management can rely on different technologies as well as corporate actions. And here we develop our own platform and communicate with also with representatives of AECSD. Now I will focus on two products, repo with the central bank and repo with the federal treasury. And in the statistical table, you see the turnover taking into account the term. So we can see the difference between shorter and longer transactions, that is more than overnight and more than a weekly transaction. Our creditors pursue different goals, while the central bank focuses on market liquidity in implementing its credit and monetary policy. The repo transactions of the central bank was in demand on the market when in 2017 and 2018 we had liquidity surplus. Its transactions were almost reduced to zero. On the other hand, the Federal Treasury has to maximize the revenue to the budget by investing temporarily free funds. And this is represented by the red bars in the diagram. Now, which are the elements which ensure the development of the platform and provide opportunities for the customers? In the central bank repo transactions, we provide on-exchange repo with the basket of securities, as well as OTC repo, which is based on the Bloomberg platform. Also, depending on the term, we have implemented functions for automatic selection of a basket of security, because for longer term, the requirements for the basket are tighter. So you don't need to think about the choice of basket, it's done automatically. Another important element is repo with fixed and floating rate. Recently, as part of COVID response measures, the central bank launched a longer repo, such as a 1-year repo for liquidity purposes. The central bank applies the key interest rate as a monetary indicator. And under the softening of credit and monetary policy, this is one of the most demanded instruments on the part of banks. Nobody wants to borrow at a fixed rate if there are prospects for interest rates reduction. In this case, floating rate played a key role as an instrument of liquidity. And finally, the Bank of Russia allows customers to use DVP-1 online settlement. On the Federal Treasury side, it is more diverse, and I would like to even show this kind of roadmap that you can see at the bottom. I will briefly explain how the platform developed and how the functions were increasingly enriched. The federal repo on of the Federal Treasury was launched in 2015 on the Bloomberg platform. After that, we implemented the corporate actions processing as our function, which allows for expanding the terms of transactions. And the trend is increase repo terms. Currently, the average term has increased from 1 day to 32 days with the help of the following. The launch of floating rate is linked to daily interest rate, which shows from on the part of central bank which rate can be used in overnight. Then in 2019, we launched repo on the MOEX, Moscow Exchange platform, which replaced Bloomberg. In parallel, we worked on Eurobonds inclusion to eligible collateral basket. And finally, the Eurobonds were included into the Ministry of Finance basket. At the same time, currency transactions were launched. So we work in situations when the transaction currency is not the same as collateral currency in different combinations. And finally, our key initiatives for this year are repo with the United Treasury account, which allows regions who are not authorized to place their funds as in the repo transactions, and they use the treasury account. And also launch repo with the mortgage-backed securities. It is a sizable segment of the market that the government needs to develop, and it is the launch of a mortgage-based securities repo which serves to improve the liquidity of the market, which is consistent with the government policy. And the final slide, just a few words about our clearing services. Collateral management is based on basic securities settlement services in DVP format. As you can see, NSD is integrated with different platforms such as Moscow Exchange, St. Petersburg Exchange for repo trades, the National Merchandise Exchange for commodities trades, and also participants can send bilateral instructions for settlements and clearing with NSD. The products we serve through clearing are repo, DVP, on-exchange trades, and deposits transactions. And the slide shows also the relative sizes. Repo is the bulk of it, followed by DVP, and the on-exchange market is following. And finally, our settlement offers to customers. Settlement in central banks' money is a classical instrument that is used in Europe. Our customers also have it. Settlements for interbank transactions. In future, we will ensure settlements through the Bank of Russia clearing account, avoiding involvement of bank accounts. That's all on my part. I hope it was interesting, and I was happy to participate and ready to take your questions. Yes, we have questions. Are you planning to accept as creditors such big corporations such as Roscosmos, Rosnickel, and others? Yes, this is a good question. I will try to give a general answer. When working with government creditors, including corporations, we do so together with the exchange, and we are planning to enter this market together with the Moscow Exchange by offering comprehensive services for any placements on their part. This is a very lucrative segment, and this is where we want to be strategically. Thank you very much, Sergey. We don't have more questions so far. Thank you very much, and we will see you later. And now we proceed to our final topic of today. And this is a very special topic that was requested by a number of association members. This is about the special case of securities servicing, which is Sukuk, which is Islamic finance instrument. For this purpose, we invited our special guests from the Central Depository of Iran and our colleagues from the Central Depository of Turkey. So they will tell us how these type of securities are serviced. The first to speak will be representative of the Iran Central Depository, Mr. Farhad Morsali.
Hello, you can turn on your mic and share your screen.
Okay, great. Hello and good morning to you. Actually, this is the afternoon in Iran. I'm very happy to be with you, and I look forward to welcoming you soon in Iran when the the issues, restrictions related to COVID-19 are lifted, so that we can have physical forum in Iran the next time, hopefully. Okay. First, I would like to thank the organizer and also yourself for giving us this opportunity to learn and hear fruitful and informative discussions related to topics and activities related to CSD business. And my name is Farhad Morsali, and I'm working in Central Depository of Iran. I mean, CSDI. CSDI is the sole CSD in Iran. That is the central CSD in Iran, and that serves as the registry entity in charge of safekeeping, clearing, and settlement of all the exchanges in Iran. Actually, we have 4 exchanges, 2 equity exchanges and 2 commodity exchanges. So I'm sure this is not my homework to present our market. I'm going to talk about Sukuk very soon. Because I don't know if I should present the presentation or the administrator over there, will present the slides.
If you are able to share your screen and present the slides.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know how to share my screen.
No, there is a green button in the bottom of the screen.
Got it.
You can open first. You can open your presentation, and then you can demonstrate. Yeah, that's correct. We see your presentation.
Okay, great. So
go ahead.
Today I'm going to talk about Sukuk, and as I was asked to talk about this topic from the very basic issue, so I needed to tell you about Islamic finance, and I'm sure that you are completely familiar with this topic, but I'm going to talk about the basic issue, because as far as when you talk about Sukuk, you need to know what Islamic finance is, what is Islamic idea about finance. As most of the attendees are Muslim countries, so I'm going to talk very quickly about these items. In Islam, as we have different sects in Islam. We have Shia, and also we have Sunni. Okay, and we have also jurisprudential attitudes toward what we do in Islam. We have some schools of legal issues. By jurisprudential issue I mean legal issues. So I'm going to talk about what we what we practice in Iran as a Shia country. Basically in Islam we have 2 important references for whatever we do, okay, regarding finance, regarding investment, regarding economics, whatever we do, personal, I don't know, family life, whatever. So the second issue, when it comes to contracts in Islam, when we have a contract, okay, neither it be economic contract, social contract, verbal contract, for example, a promise between 2 people, for example, when you get married. Okay, what we have in Islam is that any contract which is signed between 2 parties must be Sharia compliant. Okay, what is Sharia? Sharia actually is a set of Islamic, principles and rules that govern every aspect of our life. Okay, so we need to consider these principles and aspects and guidelines in our daily life and in every aspect of our, living. And the second, principle in Islamic, contracts is that whenever there is a contract, the base point is that the contract is valid. The base point is that the contract is valid until there is a breach. There is a clear breach of Sharia in the contract. Okay, this is the second principle. And the third principle in contract is that whatever we promise, whatever we have, okay, as a written contract, as an official contract, unofficial contract, or verbal agreement between two people, okay, we must follow it, okay? We have to obey and keep the promise, okay? As I have put one, Islamic, verse from the Quran, we say, it means that we must obey and we must keep our promises. This is very important. And the next one is that we have 5, general principles in contracts, and sukuk is, as I need to tell you that sukuk is a contract, okay? So we need to consider 5 principles in contracts, and that is, the first one is that we should be careful about, akd mal be batil, okay? What is it? It means that any wealth, any gain, anything that you get, okay, from your business must be fair, okay, must be valid, must be halal, okay? You shouldn't cheat anyone. You shouldn't, I don't know, steal anything, rob anyone. This is very important in Islamic finance. The second one is that zarar va zirar. It means that you shouldn't harm anyone in the contract. If there's a contract between you and another person, there shouldn't be any harm, okay? So this is very important. The harm could be to the party, to the environment, to the society, whatever, okay? There shouldn't be any harm. And the third one is qarar. Qarar, what is qarar? Qarar means uncertainty. It means that in any contract, everything must be clear, okay? There shouldn't be any complication. There shouldn't be any, ambiguity in the contract. Everything must be clear. And the fourth one is gambling. In Islam, we don't have any sort of gambling. Gambling is forbidden, okay? And the last one, which is very important, and that is the most important difference between Islamic, economics and non-Islamic economics, is about riba. What is riba? That is interest. That is charge interest or usury. It means that, for example, if you borrow money from somebody, if you lend money to somebody, could be individual lender or borrower or institutional borrower or lender, there shouldn't be any charge interest. For example, if you get a loan from the bank, okay, or from somebody, you borrow money from somebody, you shouldn't actually charge that person, or that you shouldn't be charged, any interest at the beginning of the, borrowing. I mean, you must not mention it in the contract. This is very important. And so because these are some general ideas, so I'm passing very quickly. And the next slide is talking about Islamic contracts, in terms of obligation. When it comes to classification of Islamic contracts, we have 2 types. The first one is revocable contracts and irrevocable contracts. What is irrevocable contracts? It means that when there is an irrevocable contract between 2 parties, none of the parties can revoke, can delete, can cancel, nullify the contracts, okay? Unless there are 3 conditions. The first one, both parties agrees, okay, to the nullification of the contract. The second one is that there is a breach of the conditions of the contract. For example, there are some conditions, stipulations in the contract. If there is a breach of one of them, the contract can be nullified or revoked automatically. And the third one, if there is a pre-specified or pre-stated option in the contract that one of the parties can cancel the contract or revoke the contract based on some conditions. And the second type is revocable contracts. What is that? Any party, in the contract, can revoke the contract at any time. This is another type of contracts. So now we come to Islamic finance. What is Islamic finance, and what is the difference between Islamic finance and non-Islamic finance, or conventional finance, as we call it? The most important feature of Islamic finance is participation, is cooperation. It means that when 2 parties come together to do something, a financial action and investment, there should be participation. It means that they should share both the profit and the loss, okay? And this is very important. In conventional finance, for example, in bond, when you hold a bond, you don't care about the issuer of the bond, okay? And you get your interest and go away. But in Islamic finance, you share both the profit and also the loss. And we call it profit and loss sharing basis, or PLS, and that is participatory partnership. And the second one, as I told you before, there is no charge interest. You just share the profit or markup, okay? But just one point, remember, sometimes, for example, you borrow some money from someone, okay, and you do some business, and then your business becomes successful. As a gift, remember, as a gift, you can pay extra money to the lender, but as a gift, you shouldn't, stipulate it in the contract that you should pay more. But at the end of the contract, because you're willing, out of your willingness, you pay as a gift, okay? This is also one, issue. Now we come to the point of sukuk. And what is sukuk? First, let me tell you something. Sukuk is Islamic bond. Okay, the bond that we have in conventional finance is sukuk in Islamic finance. Okay, so what is it? Actually, sukuk is an Islamic financial certificate, which is similar to bond, but it complies with Sharia. I mean, the rules of Islamic finance. So what is it? It means that the issuer of the sukuk actually, issues the sukuk and sells it to the, investors, and the investors actually, when they lend this money to the issuer of the sukuk, the issuer goes and buys an asset for the company, okay, and the investor shares an ownership from that, asset. Okay, this is important. And any proceeds, any returns that comes from that asset is shared between the issuer and the lender, I mean the sukuk holder. This is important. And I will tell you in one slide the differences exactly between sukuk and bond. And the third, definition is that the issuer must also make a contractual promise, this is very important, to buy back the sukuk at a future date, at the maturity, I mean, at par value, exactly, at face value. I mean, exactly the face value of sukuk must be paid to the sukuk holder at maturity. Remember, you can sell the sukuk, okay, before maturity, and it will be valued based on the value of the asset which is backing the sukuk, okay? So, what are the functions of sukuk? Actually, sukuk is a very attractive and interesting, means of financing, and issuers can actually finance their operational, issues or expansion of their market, and they can expand their business by issuing sukuk and go and buy machinery or land, whatever. And it's a profitable investment for the people that invest in that. And actually, it is a very good, a strategy for liquidity management. If you have extra liquidity, you can go and invest in that market. And also, it is a very good, tool for risk management. I should tell you that the risk of default or credit risk or default risk is almost, nothing in sukuk. Okay, when it comes to Iranian actually market, we have never had, any sort of default in our sukuk market in the history of, sukuk issuance in the Iranian capital market. And also that is very good for fair wealth distribution. Why? Because companies can finance their projects and attract money from, households or companies and issue sukuk, and they go and expand their, businesses. And when they expand their businesses, they can contribute to the betterment of economy in the country. So that can help the economy as well. So in a nutshell, when it comes to bond and sukuk, I have, prepared this table. You can see bond versus sukuk. So I will go through them one by one and explain what they are exactly very quickly. But bonds have a fixed interest. Remember, bonds have a fixed interest. As I told you, interest is forbidden in Islam and Islamic, economics. But sukuk are Sharia complying, avoiding riba. Okay, I will explain in the following points. Bonds indicate a debt obligation, but sukuk indicate ownership of an asset. It means that when you buy actually bond, or when you invest in bond, you in fact lend the money to the borrower, and that is debt obligation. But in sukuk and in bond, the issuer can go and do whatever he or she wants with that money, and the lender doesn't care. The lender doesn't care in bond. But in sukuk, the money that is borrowed from the investors must be spent on buying assets and spent on the expansion of the business. And the assets, important point, the assets must be Sharia compliant. For example, a company cannot issue, for example, sukuk for opening a casino, I don't know, for gambling purposes. But the activities, the assets must be completely Sharia compliant. But in bond issuance, we don't care about the purpose of the issuer. And when we come to valuation of bonds and pricing of bonds, we care about the credit rating of the issue very much, okay, based on the international credit rating agencies such as Fitch and I don't know the other ones that we have. But in Islamic finance, sukuks are priced based on the assets that are backing them, okay. This is important. If the value of that asset goes up, the value of sukuk also goes up. So there's a direct correlationship between the value of the asset and the value of the sukuk. And the next one is that profits from bonds correspond to fixed interest, making them riba. But
hello. Yes, it seems that there were some technical issues and we lost connection with you.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened.
Probably this is the internet connection, something with that. So you can go ahead with your presentation, just share the screen once again, and so we will be glad to hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, yeah, I don't know how I can bring it down, okay? So, as I think you heard these points, right? I finished this table.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I will go to the next table. So then we come to types of sukuk, and basically for types of sukuks, we have two general classifications. The first one is not-for-profit sukuk. It means that the purpose of sukuk contracts is not for gaining, returns or I don't know, profits. That is for not for profit, okay? For example, for humanitarian purposes or helping people or charity, issues. And the first one is qarzul hasaneh, as we call it in Islam, okay? It means that non-interest bearing, contracts. It means that, for example, you lend money to somebody or you help somebody with some money and you get the money, exactly the same money that you lend somebody, you get the same money, okay? And that is one contract. And in Islamic banking system, actually we have this qarzul hasaneh, issues. And the second one is waqf or endowment. It means that, for example, you have a piece of land, you have, for example, home, or you have, I don't know, a shop, and you prepare a will and you write down, if, for example, you die after your death, or even when you are living, you leave it to humanity, okay, for general purposes. For example, you say that I don't know, poor children can have, for example, some share from your I don't know, shops, or you give it to the government to put it for public purposes. That is called waqf. And the ownership is belongs to that group, not you or somebody or your kids. And the second type of sukuk is profitable instruments. It means that the purpose is gaining profit. And then we have actually two classifications. I know this may seem a little bit boring, but I will tell them very quickly. So the first one is actually profitable instruments with a specified rate of return. It means that at the beginning you have the contract, you mentioned the return in the contract. So we have different types. We have murabaha, ijara, manfaat, istisna, or salam. And murabaha is that the seller and the buyer agree to the cost and markup of an asset. It's an acceptable form of credit sale under Sharia. It means that it's mostly for doing some businesses, and you mentioned the cost and the markup, the profit of an asset, and then you mentioned how much you should, for example, own the profit and how much the second party actually owns the profit. And ijara, as you can see, if you know Arabic a little bit, it means, you know, lending and leasing. It means that you enter into a contract. For example, a company issues ijara sukuk, okay? And when they raise money, they go and buy an asset. They go and buy, for example, a piece of machine. For example, in Iran, one of their airlines, for example, the real case, you know, issued ijara sukuk for buying some aircrafts. And the owners of aircrafts, you know, were not the company, were the holders of the sukuk. And after the maturity, the borrower, the airline, okay, the airline gradually paid, you know, the ijara or the rent, and at the end, the airline became the owner. Okay, this is another contract. And then we have manfaat. Manfaat, it means that you have actually a property and somebody actually enters into a contract and gets the property, not the ownership, just the return from, or the profit that is gained from that, you know, property is owned by the second, you know, person in the contract, and then you share the profit of that property. Then we have istisna. Istisna is, for example, you order somebody to create something for you, and then you pay the fee for making that, you know, item for you. And also we have salam. Salam contract is something like futures derivatives, I mean. But the difference is that at the beginning of the contract, you pay the entire cost, and the delivery is in the future. Okay, in futures you pay just one part, some parts of the contract, but in salam contract you pay the complete actually cost, and the delivery is for the future. And then the second type for profitable instruments are those, you know, sukuk instruments that have actually expected rate of return. It is not a specified or stated rate of return, and that is mostly for partnership or musharaka, as they call it. So we have musharaka, a form of joint venture or partnership contract. You enter into a contract with a business, for example, and they say they will start the business and they will, for example, share. If they make profit, they will share the profit. If they don't make profit and they have lost, also you share the loss. Okay, this is an investment. And then we have muzaraba. Muzaraba is, you know, as you know, that is for example, I bring the money and you bring your expertise. Okay, and then we share the profit and also the loss if there is loss. Okay, so the wealth from me, the investment from me, the expertise and the profession from you. And then we have muzara. Muzara comes from, you know, farming, and if you have a farm, you can lend it to someone and someone can work on it. And if there's a crop, there's, for example, I don't know, any agricultural products, and then you share the, you know, profit from that agricultural, you know, product. If there is no product, if, for example, there is lack of rain, I don't know, there is drought, then nothing, nothing for any of the parties. Then we have musaghat, which is the last one. That is mostly for gardens. Okay, if you have a piece of garden, you can lend it to someone, and then that person can work on the trees and water the trees. And if there's fruit, you can share the profits from the fruits. If there is no fruit, nothing. Anyway, so I know the limitation of my time, so I'm coming to some real statistics related to sukuk in Iran. Just one point I need to tell you, unfortunately, because of international sanctions and also because of some restrictions that we have, you know, imposed upon us by the US and some Western countries, unfortunately, our statistics are not published by Bloomberg, Yahoo Finance, or other data vending, you know, companies. So you can't find these, unfortunately, you know, statistics through data vending companies, but you can find them through WFE, World Federation of Exchanges, or FIAS, for example, or IOSCO, if you know IOSCO. You can find these statistics there. Anyway, as you can see, we have the value of outstanding sukuk in Iran that you can see, almost $49 billion outstanding sukuk. And as you can see in the parentheses, we have never had, you know, any defaults in sukuk that we have. That's the reason that's a very safe investment, Islamic compliant and safe investment. And as you can see at the bottom, we have different types. We have treasury sukuk. Treasury sukuk is something like, you know, T-bills or T-bonds or, you know, T-notes that we have in conventional finance, but we call it treasury sukuk because the issuer is the government through the central bank or ministry. And then we have, I'm sorry, there is a problem with this, pie chart. The left side that we have 100% is not correct, because there's a point here, and the chart automatically has been, modified in that way. So you should consider the second, part of, pie. Anyway, this is number of outstanding sukuk in each type by March 2021. March is the beginning of New Year, actually, in Iran. Anyway, so as you can see, the classification, mostly they go to Murabaha, sukuk. We have had Murabaha sukuk more than the other ones. And then we have sukuk classification based on type of issuer, governmental issuers, I mean, treasury sukuk, or non-governmental sukuk, or corporate sukuk for, corporations or companies, and municipality or munis that we have. I mean, the local governors, issue that, and mostly they belong to governmental, sukuk, and the rest, belong to municipalities or non-governmental, as you can see. Anyway, so then it comes to CSDI. So what does CSDI do in this field? As you know, CSDI, the main roles come to pre-trade, trade, and post-trade. In the pre-trade, section, CSDI is in charge of registration and depository points, and that actually manages the risk in that way. And then it comes to risk, to the trade, that is, CSDI manages the risk for transferring of the ownership, clearing and settlement, and these issues. And as you know, in CSDI, we have a fund which is called SGF, or Settlement Guarantee Fund. And if there is a problem, then we can use the resources that we have there, and we can manage the default risk or credit risk in that way. And as you can see, our roles here in this slide. Then I need to tell you that CSDI has one actually subsidiary company. Actually, CSDI is the main shareholder of this company. 49% of the shares of this company belongs to CSDI. So CSDI is the main owner. So that the company's name is Central Asset Management Company. And the website of this company is sukuk.ir, sukuk.ir. IR stands for Iran. Actually, it was established in August 2010, and that's for managing and also controlling and taking care of SPVs, or special purposes vehicle. I mean, the issuing of sukuk, and the companies that want to choose, the issuer basically choose one company for issuing the sukuk, and that's SPV. So Central Asset Management Company takes care of that, and everything that relates to SPV is done by this company, and it manages the risk, potential risk of issuing of sukuk, default risk, I don't know, or credit risk. I mean, the main risk that we have here, liquidity risk that we have. This company actually manages these risks by, for example, having collaterals, or I don't know, scrutinizing the financial statements and reputation of the issuers and everything. And at the end, I have prepared two slides related to international, actually, sukuk. And as I told you, because we are sanctioned and under embargo by some governments, our statistics are not included here. Anyway, as you can see, the uprise trend of issuing of sukuk, as you may know, Luxembourg and England, which are non-Islamic countries, and they don't have actually Sharia in their countries when it comes to their transactions, are two major countries for Islamic finance. Luxembourg and England. So that is becoming interesting even for non-Muslim countries. And the last slide, that is then actually the top 10 sukuk issuers by amount issued by 2020. And you can see Malaysian governments, Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the governments that you can see here. So that was the whole story. Because I had some limitations in time, so I did my best to talk about the theories and practice. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope I could answer all the questions.
Yes, thank you, Farhad. That was very interesting presentation, and we at AECSD didn't aware about Islamic finance and the Sukuk bonds. So we were very happy to hear that from you. So, one question is there any special depository functions for Sukuk accounting? I see that you mentioned the functions of CSDI, and could you please probably explore a little bit more about that?
If I get the question, correct, as you know, CSDI through that company, I mean, Central Asset Management Company actually takes care of the issuance of Sukuk. If, for example, a company wants to issue Sukuk, okay, for, I don't know, for whatever reason, so they should come to Asset Management Company, and then if they come to Asset Management Company, the Asset Management Company gets the required documents and prepare, the documents, collateral, and manages the collateral and reputation, whatever, and then it goes to public and issues, okay, if it comes to that. And for depository function for Sukuk accounting, of course, there is a function for Sukuk accounting in CSDI, and if you want, I can connect you to our people in CSDI for more data. You have my email, I think, and they can actually reach me, no problem. And if they want through another platform, I can bring you more people from accounting department and also financial department in our company to come and answer more questions, detailed questions.
Yes, thank you so much. So there were requests from our participants, and in particular Tajikistani CSD were one of those who were willing to hear about Sukuk. So at this moment, we don't have any other questions, but we will contact you if there will be any. Very interesting presentation. I see the feedback from the audience, so thank you very much. And
thank you.
You are the great presenter. I should mention that.
Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that because we are a Muslim country and we would like to help people in the world. This is the habit of Islam. This is the nature of Islam, to help people. So we would be very happy to help other markets to issue Sukuk in their markets. We can transfer and exchange our experience if they need. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Excellent. We will rely on your assistance there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It has been very nice. Thank you.
Коллеги, мы переходим к следующему докладчику в этой теме.
And now it's time to ask the next speaker. Onur Kemal Sürek from Turkey was kind enough to tell us about how Sukuk is serviced. So this is the view on the part of the Central Depository of Turkey.
Hello, Arman. Thank you for your
AECSD seminar. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for this event. And my name is Onur Sürek, and I am working at Depository Operations Department of MKK. Today, I will make a presentation about Turkey's Sukuk market, and our presentation will start with the definition, types, some data, and issue processing, and finally some information about the taxation of the Sukuk. And if everything is okay, I want to start my presentation.
Yes, please share the screen and go ahead.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yes, is it the full screen?
Yes, absolutely fine.
Okay. As I said before, we want to first start with the definition of the Sukuk. And Sukuks are the securities issued by an asset lease companies. In other words, some CSDs called it special purpose vehicles for the purpose of financing all kinds of assets and rights, and which enables its holders to get a proportionate share from the revenues derived out of such as assets and rights. In Turkey, we have two regulations according to the government or the corporate-based schools. For the government, these certificates are regulated under law of public finance and debt management. On the other hand, corporate schools are regulated under Communique of the Capital Markets of Board, and it's about June of 17th to 2013. And we have some figures and some data over here. Turkey's total sukuk issues is increasing every year, and we have some data according to Islamic Financial Service Industry 2020 Stability Report. Turkey has about 2.6 market share from the global banking assets with its outstanding and continuous sukuk performance. And as you can see, Turkey get an 8.7 market share from the global sukuk issuances. From the figures, you can see that on the corporate side, the Turkey has a bigger part of the total issued sukuks. But on the other corporate side and the government side, it is continuously increasing according to the demands of our domestic and foreign investors. We have 5 types of sukuks currently that is issued by our members. The first one is ownership-based sukuks called IJERA, are lease certificates issued to finance the assets and rights to acquired by asset lease company, LIC, from originator in order to be leased to originator or third parties or to be managed in the name of LIC. All government-based sukuks are issued by this way. All the sukuk, but on the other hand, corporate side do not prefer this type because of its high operational work and very complex legal process. Especially in this model, you have to transfer the deed of the title of the asset to the LIC. So this process requires a lot of paperwork and some complex operations under the Turkish law. So the corporate side prefer the second sukuk, let's call it management agreement-based lease certificates called Vakala, are the lease certificate issued for the purpose of transfer of revenues obtained as a result of management of assets or rights owned by the originator in favor of LIC, also including the lease of them until end of the maturity to LIC within the frame of provision of the management agreement. These two are the most common ones, and we will talk about the other 3 of them. And at the end of the slide, we will give some numbers about the issuing amounts. The third one is Murabaha, are lease certificates issued to finance to purchase of certain assets or rights by LIC in order to be sold different payment bases to other companies eligible, such as banks, mortgage finance institutions, real estate investment companies, etc. And the other one is the Mudarabaha, Musharaka, are certificates issued by LIC for the purpose of the partnership in joint venture. In Turkey, there is only one sukuk is issued under this type. And the last one is the called istisna, are the lease certificates issued for the purpose of creation of works pursuant to APC contract to which LIC is party as a worker. And we want to talk about some milestones of Sukuk. First government lease certificate issued by Turkish Treasury in 2012. And the amount is nearly 1.2 billion Turkish liras. But now the total share is increased up to nearly 25 billion shares. Then we can talk about a huge increase in the Sukuk issuances. And if we talk about the corporate size, the first corporate lease certificate issued in 2010. As you can see the below figures, the most common issue type is Vakala for the corporate side. Nearly 95% of the Sukuk are issued by this way. And for the figures on the left, we compare the Sukuk issuances to the debt issuances on the government side and also on the corporate side. As you can see, the total lease certificate issue amount is equal to 50% of the total government issue amount. And this rate is a little bit more on the corporate side, and it is nearly 23% on the corporate side. As you can see, there is an increase on the Sukuk performance of the Turkish global market. If we talk about the issue process, of course, on the corporate side, the company, after the share board approval, all the Sukuk shares must be issued under the LIC's account. And then the Sukuks are transferred to intermediaries, institutions, investor accounts. We have three types of offering. One of them is public offering that have to be traded at best on the debt securities market. The second one is the private placement. And the final one, that the most common one, is the sales to qualified investors. And this can be also traded on the best market. When we look at the numbers, the huge part is sales to qualified investors. Nearly 70% of the issues are done under this way. If we talk about the Sukuks that are trading at Borsa Istanbul, Borsa Istanbul is the trading part of this process, and Takas Istanbul is the netting, and finally MKK is the settlement side of this process, because all the accounts and all the holdings are kept under MKK. So we transfer all the necessary movements from investor to investor or issuer to investor under MKK system. And if we talk about the corporate bond side, corporate Sukuks, the coupon payments and the redemption payments are done through MKK. MKK send then payment information to issuer, and issuer transfer the cash to Takas Bank Istanbul. Takas Bank Istanbul is our cash correspondent bank, and we distribute the related cash amounts by using Takas Bank system. When the issuer pays the related cash amount at MKK's cash account under Takas Bank, we distribute the amounts to intermediary institutions' cash accounts at MKK. MKK do not pay the related amounts directly to the investors. MKK don't do this. Intermediary institutions' obligation to distribute the money to the investor accounts on their side. MKK only paid the whole amount to the intermediary then intermediary obligation to distribute the cash account to their clients under their accounts. And when we again look at the numbers, there is a total 50 billion of payment was done through MKK system. And these data are belong to 2002 data. And we want to talk about the final topic about the taxation. The earnings of non-resident and full-time taxpayer, real persons from buying and selling of lease certificates and income are subject to 10% income tax. But Turkish government made an exception until end of July. Lease certificates that has 6 month maturity has 5%, 6 to 12 months has 3, and over 1 year has 0 income at the moment. But maybe from after July, maybe this period can be extended or not. We will follow the Turkish government's decisions. And there is one exception to gold-backed lease certificates are subject to 0% income tax. And as you know, the legal entities taxation is 0. If I want to give some examples about the government-based lease certificates, these are the gold-based and the foreign currency-based are the most common ones that issued by our government. And at the moment, the government issued sukuks has the 60% share of the total sukuk issues of Turkey. And after this detail, my presentation is finished at that moment. I hope you enjoy our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anur. Yes, we very much enjoyed your presentation. And thank you very much for all the details you provided with regards to accounting and processing. And all the data aspects. Yes, that was very good presentation. Thank you so much for all the details you provided. So in case there will be any questions, we will count a few clearly. Yes, I see the feedback from participants that they liked it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. На этом семинаров дня.
Colleagues, this will be the end of our webinar for today. Today we've covered quite a broad range of topics. I see a question from Yulia Chernogorova about prospects for developing sukuk markets in Russia. Well, so far we don't have such plans. In fact, when preparing the seminar, we responded mostly to requests from our colleagues. Maybe we will look at this possibility in future, but not yet. So we have covered electronic IPOs and collective investment systems. We talked about foreign nominee holder accounts and the way we serve them. We also touched upon three-party services and collateral management, and also raised a topic which is very interesting and not very known to many of the participants, that is Islamic finance and the associated services, and in particular the sukuk case. I hope the seminar was as useful as before, and tomorrow we'll continue as usual at 10 a.m. Moscow time. Please join us. And I wish you a good and fruitful afternoon and evening. Thank you.